Good morning, everyone. Happy Tuesday. I'm Tabitha Hassell. This is Tabs on Tap. Thank you for joining me this morning. I have more things to talk about than I will probably have time to talk about in 2 hours, but I am going to do my best to make my way through everything. But before I do, I just want to make sure everyone knows you can. This today is our ninth episode, believe it or not, the ninth episode of Tabs on Tap. And I will not be here tomorrow. I haven't had enough shows with today being the ninth episode to have a replay. So I will not have a replay tomorrow. You guys have probably seen all of my 9 episodes. And if you haven't, you can go to YouTube, you can check out X, you can check out my page on Facebook to see any of the prior shows. But as some of you know, I own a small security company, and I work mostly evenings and nights, which is why the morning has worked out for me to do my little podcast here. But there are some mornings when duty calls and I have no choice but to work. So that's going to be tomorrow. Now, somewhere down the line, once we've had a few shows under my belt, then I will do some replays. But as of now, no point in doing that. So unfortunately, I won't be here. Hopefully, there's nothing too crazy to talk about as there is this morning. Good morning, Joe. Good morning, Glesna from the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. So happy to have you guys here. There's so much to talk about today. The news cycle never fails. As a matter of fact, there's more things to talk about than I will ever have time. I want to talk about communism, the Revolutionary Communist Party. There's a new group, we've had RevCon, we've had LPL. I want to talk about the new Communist Party. The communist movement in the United States is growing, and it's growing all across the world, but it's really growing here in the United States. We're going to talk about that. Venezuela. You're going to hear some very familiar terms when we talk about Venezuela. As some of you may have heard, you probably have seen, we talked about this a little bit yesterday. The Venezuelan presidential election took place, and it is highly contested. And again, we're going to really get into this. I'm going to show some videos of the uprising that's going on right now in Venezuela. It's certainly something to worry about. Missouri General Andrew Bailey, we're going to talk about him suing Biden and Harris. We're going to talk about that. Good morning, Ryan. Let's see, we're going to talk about a little bit about the Olympic ceremony. I think we covered it pretty well yesterday, but I do want to talk about Archbishop Vergano, who made a statement, a statement that I wasn't expecting. So I'm going to read that to you, talk about some other things in regards to that, some of the outrage that has happened. And I'm going to read an excerpt from the news because everyone says, well, the artistic director, Thomas Jolly, that's not what he planned. Well, I'm going to read a statement to you because when you catch the news, always catch the first couple of articles before they've had a chance to change the narrative. So we're going to get into that and why he felt that it was okay to have a parody of The Last Supper. We're going to talk about Elon Musk. Boy, Elon Musk is all over the news today between his involvement in Venezuela. He's got a target on his head for sure from Nicolas Maduro, the alleged Venezuelan president. So we're going to talk about that, as well as Elon Musk created an AI video of Harris. It's kind of contested. Did he make the video? Did he just share it? Newsom claims that he made it. Musk says he shared it. So we'll see what happens here. And we're going to play that video for you. Harris, can she beat Trump? I'm not so sure. And it seems like Democrats are pulling out all the stops to make it at least look like she will. Because, I mean, isn't it really about how everything looks? It's all about propaganda, isn't it? Going to get into that a little bit. Let's see here. Intelligence agents. I don't trust our intelligence services, quite honestly, and it's sad to say that, but ever since Hillary Clinton made her infamous statement about 37 intelligence agencies said that Trump colluded with Russia in the election in 2020. Come on. Nope, didn't happen. Or in 2016. Let's see here. Illegals voting. We're going to talk about that. Laura Loomer had a really crazy announcement about Democrats performing a live abortion on the stage at the DNC convention. I find that hard to believe. I don't know where she got this information, but we're going to get into that. There's a couple other news items I want to touch base on. Earthquakes, California fire, cholesterol and cancer. You know, this is a strange thing probably for me to talk about, the relationship between cholesterol and cancer. I've often talked about the relationship between parasites and cancer and the I word and potentially some of the things that the I word can do for cancer. But cholesterol is something you probably haven't heard about in relation to cancer. So we're going to talk about that. So again, so many things. Good morning, Stacy. Linda says Tulsi hit her hard in the one debate. Many good points. Trump has been, if you go on to Truth Social or X, you'll see that Donald Trump has been really polling Americans, asking, well, how do you feel about this person being in my administration? How do you feel about this person? And Tulsi Gabbard is one of the persons that he mentioned in his polling. He said, how do you feel about Tulsi Gabbard being in my administration? So I think it would be perfectly fine. I am 100% about representing all Americans, and that includes Democrats. It unfortunately does not include communists or socialists or Marxists or the folks on the very far fringe left. Sorry, guys, you are left out of the picture in my book. But I would love for Trump to have some more moderate Democrats in his establishment. I think that that would be for the greater good of all Americans. I really do. Good morning, Sherry. Todd says doctors always overhyped cholesterol and try to post their statin drugs, which should be illegal. It I don't disagree with you, Todd, but we're going to talk about statin drugs and something that may actually surprise you about statins, something I did not know. And at one time, a long time ago, I was prescribed statins because my cholesterol has always been high. I can eat nothing. I could live on vegetables. There was a time in my life where I literally did eat nothing to try to maintain my 98 pounds. And I did that for many years, subject for another day. And even then, my cholesterol was really high. And so I think some of us, our bodies just do have high cholesterol. And, after hearing this, it's something to think about. We'll get into that here in just a bit. The Revolutionary Communist Party. There's a new kid on the block. I've talked, if you've listened to my shows in the past, I have often talked about the Revolutionary Communist Party, RevCom. They've been around since 1975, probably longer, and they've been very dangerous. LPL, another one, very dangerous groups of folks. They go around. We saw them in the back in the days of the Michael Brown protests, after the George Floyd protests, right here in the city of St. Louis, we had folks from RevCom, LPL, coming to St. Louis. They were very involved in the protests. I will always firmly say that 99% or more of the people you saw come out to protest were peaceful protesters. When you see the Black community come out and they were protesting, the majority were very peaceful people. They were there because they were concerned about legitimate things they're concerned about, and some illegitimate things they're concerned about. And so they were there for, in their minds, the right reasons. Now, what happens is the Revolutionary Communist Party, they will throw the first rock, the first brick, the first graffiti, they will throw the first match. And then what they do is they go back and they hide in the crowd so that no one sees them. And then guess what happens? We blame it all on the peaceful people. And what happened is a lot of the Black community, I think, was blamed for a lot of the violence. Now, some of the violence they were certainly guilty of, but a lot of the violence was also part of the Revolutionary Communist Party, white folks. And I will tell you, for example, I know 100% for sure that one of those protests that was taking place in Ferguson was a peaceful protest. One going down Grand Avenue in St. Louis City was a peaceful protest until one of the members of RevCom stepped up into the crowd and threw the first bottle of ice at police, threw the first brick in the case of the protest that happened on Grand in the city. And then what happens again, they weasel their way back into the crowd. And so the cameras, the police, whoever is looking, they only see the person in front of them. They don't see these folks running to hide. in the back. Very dangerous. No, there's no doubt in my mind. Antifa has risen up from these communist parties. They're anti-government. They're not for Harris. They're not for Trump. They are anti-government. They are for socialism. But Harris is probably the closest thing we've had to full out socialism in a very long time, perhaps in our history. So I think that's going to change. And I think we're going to see the rise of these communist groups probably more than we've ever seen in the past. This new group, they are called the Revolutionary Communists of America, and they held a rally in Philadelphia. I believe it was on Sunday, and in during or maybe it was yesterday during this rally, they had over 500 participants. And I'm going to show you the video here, and then we'll go over what they are saying. It's crazy. I mean, it's really crazy.
Last war 2024. Fight the rich, beat the poor. Fight the rich, beat the poor. Last war 2024. Last war 2024. All the wars have gone wrong.
Could you hear what they were saying? Fight the rich, feed the poor. I think they said the class war of 2024, and then they said all wars must go. And these people live in our country. They live amongst us, full out communists. Communists. Not a shadow of communism. They are flat out communists. At this rally alone, over 500 people marched. And that should be really terrifying to us because you know what? These are the same people. These are the same people that want to cause chaos. Remember when Nancy Pelosi's house was vandalized and somebody left the head of a pig and it said capitalist pig on the garage? That was these folks that did that. They are anti-democrat, anti-republican, anti-government, and their sole purpose is to create chaos. And whenever we had, again, some of these riots is what they turned into in the St. Louis area, and I know this happened all across the country, Revolutionary Communist Party, they were the first folks out there going to schools, attempting to recruit students. They were handing out communist leaflets. They were going door to door. They were going to all of the different areas where people gathered and leaving pamphlets on their cars. And it's something that people don't talk about enough, but communists do exist among us. Todd says, I would consider myself anti-government. Well, and me too, but you're not a communist. I'm not a communist either. These people are absolutely out there to cause chaos, disorganization. Anytime you see one of these rallies and you see the bricks stacked up in the corners and you see the frozen water bottles brought in, these folks are always behind it. There's no question that Soros and some of the Soros like-minded people, they're paying these folks to go out here and cause trouble. And that's what they want to do. They want us to be divided. And we know some of those tricks, don't we? So Revolutionary Communist Party, definitely something to keep an eye on. Venezuela, speaking of something to keep an eye on, what's happening in Venezuela, it really what makes me wonder, will we be there at some point? I always feel like we're falling, just a couple steps behind Venezuela. They had their presidential election, and let's see here. Of course, we're all familiar with Nicolas Maduro. Again, communist. He turned Venezuela into a socialist country. Venezuela was doing really well until the deep state got involved, just like they have with Libya, Iraq, so many different countries that we all know about. We've all gone there, haven't we? And Nicolas Maduro, there's no question the deep state put him in place into Venezuela. Venezuelans were doing wonderful before he came along. And then all of a sudden, they're right in the middle of socialism. What happens? Our economy collapses, doesn't it? And we're following in the same footsteps. Obama started leading us the way. Trump, thank God, gave us 4 years of greatness before Biden stepped back into the role. how far are we away from what's happening in Venezuela right now? So Nicolas Maduro, he claims he had 71.9% of the votes. The people claim it was actually the opposite of that. And Edmundo Gonzalez actually had 71.9% of the votes. Was it a free and fair election? Even Anthony Blinken is saying no, it was not a free and fair election. Absolutely not. And Sherry says Venezuela's on fire right now. Sherry says Soros' son is way worse now. He's marrying Huma. Isn't that the truth? The sick woman was married to Weiner. Yes. We're going to talk about that one of these days. So Edmundo Gonzalez is the person the people wanted. I don't know much about him. Obviously, the media is very suppressed in Venezuela. As we talked about yesterday under Maduro, he opened up the prison doors, the drug centers, and all of their murderers, rapists, drug dealers were all shipped off right here to the great United States of America. So their crime is very low there right now. Our crime is very high because he sent all of his bad guys here. What a dream world that is. And if you guys can recall, when the Venezuelan economy collapsed, Venezuelans were starving to death. They had food rations. They were eating out of trash cans. People who once were wealthy or at least middle class were eating out of trash cans. They had no food. The grocery stores were empty. They had no gasoline. Their money was completely worthless. I'm sure some of you remember Venezuelans. It's heartbreaking to think about, heartbreaking to see. These people were sitting in the streets burning their cash to stay warm. It threw the entire country into absolute chaos. And what we see happening now in Venezuela, I really do wonder if it's going to happen here at some point. Is it going to happen this year? What's going to happen if Harris wins the election? Because I'm going to get into this a little bit more in a few minutes. Democrats are paving the way for her to seal the nomination. We know they're going to pave the way for her to seal the election. They will stop at nothing to make sure that happens. What's going to happen with us? What are we going to do? Are we going to sit back and take it? I don't condone violence and never will, but are we going to sit back and take it? Are you going to see people out in the streets? Because some people, I think, have had enough. I've had enough. I don't know how far I'm willing to go over having had enough. And I'll save that for a podcast on Telegram and not here for the world to see. Margie says Venezuela was doing very well not long ago. That's correct. And you know what, Margie? That's how fast things happen. That's how quickly you elect someone, or someone is selected, not elected, right? And then all of a sudden, guess what happens? Your economy collapses and you end up eating out of a dumpster. It can happen here. Don't think it can't, because you know what? We are an election away from that happening, knowing how incredibly far left and socialist Harris is. We are a step away from that happening. So protests broke out all across Venezuela. As we talked about yesterday, during the election, Venezuelans stayed at the polling centers, at the voting centers, until all the votes were counted. And then they rioted with good reason, in my opinion. But here's something interesting. You want to say, well, how did this happen? How was the election stolen away from Gonzalez? How is it that Maduro won again when there's probably no one in Venezuela who actually wants Maduro to win? Here's a name blast from the past: Smartmatic. Smartmatic. In fact, Venezuela, Maduro and some of the other folks over there praised Smartmatic for their election win. Gee, I wonder why. Don't we remember that name, Smartmatic? Well, we're going to be talking a lot about Smartmatic between now and our own election, and probably a lot more even after that. Sherry Adam, is it Telegraph or Telegram? Maybe that's where I went wrong. It is Telegram. I hope I didn't call it Telegraph. It is Telegram. And I'll tell you what, if you don't have Telegram downloaded in your, as an app, be sure to do that. Telegram to me is one of my favorite resources for truth. You can go on Telegram and you're not going to get deleted. You're not going to be banned. It is free to share everything, but again, with any source that you share truth, just remember to always do your own investigating and confirm your own facts, because a lot of people post on Telegram, some of them with nefarious purposes. How far are we in the United States from an uprising? If we have an uprising, what's going to happen? In this case, in Venezuela, I'm going to play a couple of videos. And in the first video, you're going to see government forces, and I call them mercenaries. I don't think they would be called mercenaries. They're not police officers, they're just dressed in plain clothes, but they're shooting at protesters. Hundreds of thousands of protesters, allegedly, there were that many, came out all across Venezuela yesterday. And a lot of these protesters were shot at. I haven't heard yet how many deaths or injuries they were, and we'll probably never hear it. Pam says, I can't believe I'm even saying this, but there are predictions of the US having a collapse or big recession, not this Christmas, but maybe next. We're already there. We're already at a recession. We're already at overinflation. And if you look up the terms for overinflation, what that means, if you don't already know, you'll be like, okay, yes, you're right. We are already there. They just hide it from us. They don't, the news doesn't want to talk about that. They don't want to panic people as to where we are. I went to the store the other day. I didn't even buy very much. I didn't even have a full cart of stuff. $264. How can people survive? I have no idea how I'm surviving, let alone everyone else. But we just keep on moving, don't we, and hoping for the best. And at some point, when are people going to feel like the best is over? Dottie says it was one of the wealthiest countries. Yes. Sugar, oil, everything that Venezuela had. Well, this is where they are today.
Ven, que son pistolas, ven. Bueno, ven. Ojalá. Dale, que vienen para acá, aquí.
Grábalo, lo que están haciendo, grábalo. Estamos con nuestro derecho, no estamos haciendo ni estamos con violencia a nadie. Mira lo que están haciendo,
Dale, pósame, sígueme posando, que te ves bello.
Grábalo.
Sígueme posando, anda. Dale, pósame y dispárame para acá, ven.
Ay, no, porque van a matar. ¡No sé! ¡Me van a una bota de cocaína y después de la bota! Ya.
Did you see how the video ended? The shooters aimed at the person taking the video. And Margie says, what happened? Margie, the election fraud, absolutely so. Nicolas Maduro taking the win again in Venezuela in their presidential election. And these people didn't vote for him. That 79% of people in Venezuela didn't vote for Nicolas Maduro. We know that. And, I think everyone knows that. It doesn't matter. Do they have to hide it? I don't think that there's any reason to hide it, because there's not a darn thing anyone can do about it. And, yesterday in Venezuela, they were toppling statues of Chavez. They were, of course, because Maduro idolizes communism and socialism. They were tearing down anything that had anything to do with Maduro. They were looting stores, because guess what? These people are starving. They are starving. And what you saw there was pro-government forces wearing plain clothes, again, not police officers, shooting at protesters. And you'll see police walk by. The police were not shooting at them. The police weren't doing anything, because guess what? These people would shoot the police just as fast. Thousands, apparently hundreds of thousands, they say, out rioting in the streets. I have another video that I want to show, just because I always wonder, is Is it going to happen here? Is this what we're going to see in our own country? I really do wonder. Let me find it here. All right, I have so many videos. I have such a long list trying to make my way back. Will we take to the streets in the same way? I'm not really sure. We conservatives, we're very complacent. We don't typically go out and become violent. We don't take to the streets. We don't topple statues. That's not us, is it? That's the other folks. They're the ones who want to go out and vandalize statues and burn down buildings. I do wonder, when is it going to be us? What's going to push us over the edge to where we are the ones who are angry enough to go out into the streets? And I'm not condoning anyone to do that, but at the same time, I don't know how we're ever going to win if we don't fight fire with fire. It's a really big predicament for me personally, because again, I don't want people to be violent. I don't want anyone to be hurt, not on any side. I want us to be peaceful. But at the same time, I'm sitting at home and I'm thinking, gosh, I just spent $264 on groceries that probably would have cost me maybe $120 a couple years ago. I'm paying a lot of money to get gas when I paid at the lowest about $2.30 a couple years ago. Health insurance through the roof, home insurance through the roof. I mean, at some point, people are going to have had enough. And you always wonder, well, when that happens, who are the military and the police going to side with? And in the case in Venezuela, they're starting to side with the people. And Ryan says, why don't the people just arrest him? Vigilante justice? Because no one is going to help them. Ryan, it could come to that. And I'm going to play another video here in a moment of Venezuelan police who, instead of going against their own people, they took their vests off and threw them down on the ground, some of it very emotionally, because I am sure that these police officers, just like so many police officers we know, they're so invested in their job and they took on police work to invest in their community, to be better people, to make your community a safer, better place. And then you get to this point where so many officers I know are there and they say, well, what do I do? Am I gonna hurt my own family, my own people, the people in my community? Am I gonna shoot these people? Am I going to arrest them when they're in the right? And then, of course, that's exactly why Obama did try to weed out the conservatives out of the police departments and out of the military. And there is no doubt, because there were several police chiefs who came forward and said that they were asked to weed out who had American flags, who had thin blue line flags, who had made posts on social media, who had the Gadsden flag. And those police officers and those military members that expressed their conservative views, they were investigated. And most of the police chiefs, thank God, are still really good people. They're still fighting for us. And those people, those police chiefs, they said, I'm not doing this to my men and women, that work for me. This is not how America works. But eventually, as police officers retire, it was a record year last year and the year before for law enforcement officers to retire because they are tired of their hands tied behind their back, of course. And what's going to happen under Harris? I think we all know under Trump, police officers are probably going to get some big bonuses, some big raises, potentially work less hours, and certainly feel a lot safer on our streets. Under Harris, I think the opposite's going to happen. She's so much further left than even Obama was, much further left. And I think our police officers are going to leave in droves under her presidency. I really do. I don't see how we could think it won't it won't happen. And they're going to usher in a new police force. They're going to usher in new military members, and those people, they're not going to be on our side. They're going to make sure before they even join that they are not one of us. And what happens then when you can't even trust police officers? And we're at a pivotal point right now. Right now, I absolutely do. There's a couple bad apples out there, but I overwhelmingly do support and trust our police officers. But what's going to happen when we can't? That time will come, and you need to be prepared for it. It will come, and it will happen in our lifetimes. I have no doubt in my mind. Sherry says, when you gave orders, you have to follow them. That's why military won't do anything. And also, Sherry, I just about died when I got my homeowner auto up 27%. I am dumb and moved to the great state of Illinois, and I won't even tell you what my monthly taxes are in the house. It's a lot. Let's just say that. It's a lot. It's overwhelming, quite honestly. No personal property taxes, but it's a lot of money. So here, I'm going to play this little video. It's just a small clip of, in Venezuela, police officers taking off their vests. And, outside of this, I'm not going to play a video clip of it, but there were videos of military members who were sent out by Maduro to arrest citizens, and they didn't do it. In fact, they greeted the citizens who were protesting. So I think we're going to see the tide change in Venezuela. This officer just took off her vest. Don't you know that was an emotional time for police? I know that was a little loud. Sorry about the volume. Ryan says, the whore is allowed to steal it. We will not allow it. I think that's what you're saying, Ryan. I had to go back and really look at that. Sherry, when you gave orders, I think I read that already. You have to follow them. Yes, when you're given orders, you do have to follow them. And I absolutely agree. And that's what I think our police officers struggle with all of the time. I mean, I work in security. I've not been presented with, there was a time when I was presented with some orders that were very difficult to follow, but you do the job you have to do. These police officers and military members in Venezuela, they're doing exactly what we've always predicted will happen here in the United States. They're joining the people. As you just saw, these police officers very emotionally took off their vests and they joined the citizens. I think right now in 2024, if things go south and there's protests and other things going on, I absolutely do think our police officers will take off their vest, metaphorically speaking, and they will join us. That's not going to happen probably in a couple years, but for now. So Nicolas Maduro, he labeled Elon Musk, you're going to laugh at this, the arch enemy of Venezuela. I mean, it's kind of funny. Elon Musk, his name is everywhere these days, isn't it? Everyone's talking about Elon Musk, including the Venezuelan dictator, Nicolas Maduro. So how Elon Musk became the arch enemy, I do not know, but this is exactly what Nicolas Maduro stated. He said, our new arch enemy, the famous Elon Musk, who desperately shows his face, and he would like to come with his rockets and army to invade Venezuela. He is the representation of the fastest ideology in the world, the economic power supporting the fastest ideology of the extreme right. Well, of course, Maduro, fears the right. He fears conservatives because he knows there's more of us in his own country. There are more of us than there are of them, that's for sure. But yet he's still in power. And yeah, sure, because Elon is calling out the facts. And yes, I wish he would release the Epstein files. I don't think he has the Epstein or the Fauci files. Otherwise, I think he would absolutely release that information. I don't think we'll ever find out anything about the Epstein files. Even if Trump, let's say, wins, I don't think that those names will ever be released to us because I think our country would collapse. If we knew who those names were, I think our entire economy would collapse because I would bet you anything that a lot of those names are at the very top of a lot of our daily activities, things we do, things we buy, places we go. Lawmakers maybe probably think people we wouldn't even think about on that list. Why? Because people like Epstein, they know what they're doing. They try to lure people in. And, somebody doesn't even have to be guilty of anything. They can just fly on the airplane, come out for a little visit, not knowing what they're getting themselves into. But our country would collapse if we knew what that Epstein list was. Many of us have a very good idea. We know some of the names on the list. We don't know them all. I don't think Trump would ever release that information because it would destroy us. More than us. It would be far-reaching. So we really need to keep an eye on Venezuela because I think that what we see happening in Venezuela is so close to something that could eventually happen here, and we need to see how it plays out there. And step by step, we're going to see how it plays out. And I think that's going to be really interesting to come across. Do you guys remember yesterday I was talking about, I played the video of New York City. And at the time, I didn't even realize that all that was involved, but I played the video of a shooting. It was in a park. There were kids. I believe they were playing soccer out in a park. There were so many shots fired. I had no idea at the time we talked about that yesterday that allegedly the shooter is an illegal migrant. And that particular park is right next to a migrant shelter that has had so much crime. There have been stabbings and shootings and all kinds of things. And now we have one person, a woman that was killed in that shooting, a couple of people with very serious injuries, others with minor injuries. When I played that video, I didn't even realize that, that it was directly related to this migrant center and potentially the shooter was here in the United States illegally. I'm not surprised by it, but I really didn't realize the tie. And I wanted to make sure we covered that because that was crazy. The Olympic ceremony, I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about it because I think we covered it yesterday. I don't know that there's a whole lot more to talk about, but I didn't watch the Olympics. I don't think most of you watch the Olympics. There are scenes that I didn't see, didn't know about it. I had no idea, and I don't know if any of you guys did, you probably do by now, that there was a menage a trois between three men as part of the opening ceremony. I had no idea. I had absolutely no idea until I started reading about it and reading all the tweets and all of the different stuff. And it's crazy. You know what? I am a live and let live kind of person. I don't care what you're doing. If one of you commented on this comment line that, hey, I had a menage a trois yesterday, I don't care. In the privacy of your own home or wherever you're at, not my business. I do not judge you for anything you do. I am not the person to judge. But when you do it on live television, that's another story. Live television, and from what I understand, the anchors at NBC really had no idea how to handle it. And from what I understand, they pretty much stuttered over it like, what did we just see? And so many people online are commenting that, my gosh, thank you. Now I need to explain to my children what a menage a trois was. Why are my children seeing these three men dressed kind of clownish going into a door and very clearly being sexual with each other and then disappearing into a room? Come on now. And people were all over my personal Facebook page yesterday. By far, not the majority. Most people feel exactly like we do. And they were but there were some people who were all over me saying, why is it so bad? Why is it so wrong? It's just artistic expression. No, it's not. Artistic expression stops when it comes to what the public sees. When there are children watching the Olympics, children, it's not just adult content, it's children. And I'm going to try to pull up this photo because so many people, and I know we went over this yesterday, and I probably won't talk about it anymore after today unless something crazy happens. But I'm tired of people telling me that the artistic director and that the organizers didn't know and didn't plan for this to be a parody of the Last Supper. And so yesterday I had a hard time pulling this photo up. I'm going to try again today. If it doesn't work, I guess we'll move on and talk about something else. But let's see here. I'm going to try to pull this up. Is it going to work? Is it not going to work? Well, I'm guessing it's not going to work, which is really strange because it just did when I was testing it. Well, so much for that. Good thing we all know what it looks like. I don't know what is going on and why I cannot pull up these photos as a housekeeping note. I don't know. But either way, it worked when I was testing it this morning. Why it doesn't work in live, I don't know. But I will describe it for you because you've all seen it. So you know what the Last Supper looks like. You know that in that Last Supper photo, we have Jesus in the middle. And we have all the folks surrounding him in certain poses, certain places. And you can't tell me that when you look at the parody, it is a parody, that they're not placed in very similar or exact positions. And then they're going to try to tell us that that's not what we meant to do. I mean, it is absolutely what they meant to do. And so Archbishop Carlo Vigano, do you remember him? Archbishop Carlo Vigano, he was excommunicated from the Catholic Church by the order of Pope Francis. Why? I'm Catholic. I grew up Catholic, so I don't feel like I'm out of line talking about what goes on in the Catholic Church because I am an insider. I'm not an outsider when it comes to Catholic. In fact, I always tell people, I used to tease Vic because Vic always said, well, he's very Catholic. And it used to be really funny. Vic Faust, my former co-host, my family was very involved in the Catholic Church. You know, my stepfather, he was a chemist, but when he retired at a very early age from his job as a chemist, and he worked for the Archdiocese of St. Louis for 35 years. You know, we lived right next door to a monastery, and he was there every day. I got to know the sisters and everyone fairly well, a couple of them, and throughout my entire life. So, you know, my stepfather actually carried the body of St. Beatrice when she came through St. Louis. And I don't feel too out of line saying this because I do feel that the Catholic Church has changed a lot. And I'm sorry if that offends anyone, but I do feel like the Catholic Church has changed a lot. So Archbishop Carlo Vigana, this is what he stated. And I mean, you may not like what he says. He might go too far. I'm not sure. You might agree with him. I'll be curious to know of your thoughts. Good morning, Michelle. Let's see. Archbishop Carlo Vigano. He's come out, says strongly condemning the Satanic Olympics in Paris as a vile attack on God by the anti-Christian elite who want to undermine traditional family values. Now, these are the words of Archbishop Vigano. He says these satanic rituals are a recurring theme previously seen at the 2012 London Olympics, the 2016 Gotthard tunnel opening, and the 2022 Commonwealth Games. He was disturbed by the following, and this is based on a letter that he wrote. He was disturbed by transvestite and effeminate dancers, a parody of the LGBTQ plus Last Supper, holograms of horsemen of the apocalypse, a decapitated Marie Antoinette celebrating the French Revolution. He even called Emmanuel Macron's wife a transvestite and described Michelle Obama as a muscular man in a wig. Oh my goodness. And Emmanuel Macron, who passes off, this is his exact words, Emmanuel Macron, who passes off a transvestite as his own wife with impunity, just as Barack Obama is accompanied by a muscular man in a wig. These are the words of former Archbishop Carlo Pagano. I'm kind of surprised by that. He ends his letter stating that he advocates for Christians to unite globally and boycott the Olympics and its sponsors. What do you think about that? Those were very harsh criticisms, particularly towards Macron's wife and Michelle Obama. It's not the first time we've heard these things, but I was really surprised hearing these things from an archbishop. And it kind of made me wonder, does he know what he's talking about? Does he not know what he's talking about? Why was he excommunicated? Maybe because of these, or maybe he's right. That's not for me to determine. Not for me to determine. But I want to go back because I talked earlier about the artistic director, Thomas Jolly. You know, I'm going to give you a big hint when you're looking for news, especially if you want the truth. What you have to do anytime something happens, you have to look at the first couple of news stories, the first videos, because they will start deleting the first news stories, they will start deleting the first videos. And then what happens is, let's just say you are the subject of a big news story and you're not really expecting the backlash. So you give an interview that kind of communicates that, yes, this is your view on things, blah, blah, blah. Well, then people are like, oh my God, I can't believe they feel that way. And then you have the power, or the government has the power, state ran media, to start deleting those articles. And that gives you the opportunity to rewrite what you were going to say. And when they delete videos, then it no longer is part of history, correct? Always look at the first articles. Always, always, always. So this is one of the first articles. This came out by Newsweek. I trust Newsweek. I'm not sure about you guys, but I do. And this article stated, and this is one of the first articles written about the Olympic Games. Thomas Jolly, the artistic director of the Paris 2024 Olympics opening ceremony, has strongly defended the inclusion of a controversial parody of Leonardo da Vinci's The Last Supper in the event's production. The artistic vision, which featured drag queens, transgender individuals, and naked dancers, has sparked a wave of criticism worldwide. Jolly, who is from Normandy and is known for his work in theater, has described the ceremony's focus on diversity as central to its message. So that goes to show that he defended the parody. It was a parody. And it goes on, and the title of the paragraph says Jolly's defense of the ceremony. And then it says, speaking to reporters on July 28th, Jolly clarified that the intention behind the opening ceremony was not to be provocative, but to celebrate diversity. And there's nothing wrong with celebrating diversity, but that's not what this was. He stressed that the production aimed to showcase inclusion and unity, rather than to challenge or undermine religious sensibilities. Jolly asserted that the ceremony was a reflection of France's values of artistic freedom and individual rights. According to Jolly, now this is where it will all come together for you. According to Jolly, our subject was not to be subversive. We never wanted to be subversive. We wanted to talk about diversity. Diversity means being together. He emphasized the importance of artistic freedom in France, stating, we wanted to include everyone, as simple as that. In France, we have freedom of creation, artistic freedom. We are lucky in France to live in a free country. I didn't have any specific messages that I wanted to deliver. Jolly further highlighted France's right-based ethos, noting, here's where it goes. In France, we are a republic. We have the right to love whom we want. We have the right not to be worshipers. We have a lot of rights in France, and this is what I wanted to convey. I don't have any problem with conveying that you have a lot of rights. Conveying, what your personal beliefs are. Don't include children. Don't mock Christianity. What do we see happening with so many different companies these days, between mocking Christianity, mocking conservatives and our values, donating to the Harris campaign. Look what happened to Netflix. What are they down? I don't know how many billions of dollars now because it became known that they donated to the Harris campaign. Don't mock Christianity, and as Jolly says, he's not a worshiper. To him, it means nothing. The parody means nothing. He is not a worshiper. He makes that very clear to us. So to him, none of it mattered, right? And as far as sponsors go, a lot of people are calling to boycott the sponsors. We knew about Ceasefire, which was a huge sponsor, backing down, withdrawing their money from the advertising in the Olympic Games. Samsung was the latest, and there may be others that I have not heard about yet. Samsung was a $1 billion sponsor to the Olympics. $1 billion. They backed out. They are no longer going to sponsor the Olympics. And I have a list here of sponsors of the Olympics. I'd be curious to see. There's a lot of them. I'm not going to read them all because there are entirely too many. But there's a lot of sponsors here that you might be surprised are sponsors. And it'll be interesting to see if they have any statements, if they back Christianity, or if they continue backing a ceremony that opened with a menage a trois between three men for children to see, children seeing appendages of men hanging out right next to them. And it's not this is not about it's not about gay, it's not about trans, it's not about the LGBTQ community. It's not about any of that. I think we as conservatives support all of the people in our community. And I think all of us are already very inclusive. And I think we already have the belief that live and let live, but don't harm children. Don't bring children in it. Behind your closed doors, do whatever you want to do. But when you're on live television where your impressionable children are looking forward to the opening ceremony and this is what they're met with, and you're forcing your very far, far left beliefs onto impressionable children. For me personally, that's when I have to draw the line. It I just had to make that very clear. So here are some of the Olympic sponsors. And I'm going to name the ones I've heard of. There's a lot of them on here. Airbnb, Alibaba, Allianz. Allianz is an insurance company. Bridgestone. We all know who Bridgestone is. Coca-Cola, believe it or not. Deloitte, Intel, Panasonic, P&G. You probably buy P&G toilet paper, don't you? Maybe not anymore. Samsung, who we knew withdrew $1 billion in advertising. Toyota, Visa. You probably have a card that has a Visa logo on it. Let's see here. Some of these I have never heard of. Air France. The CDC. How does the CDC invest in anything? Well, the CDC has invested apparently and sponsored the Olympics, which is very odd. I guess they're going to sponsor some commercials on vaccines or something. Cisco, we know who Cisco is, Networking Technology Solutions. Decathlon, sports equipment and apparel. FDJ, the thrill of lottery and sports betting. Let's see, Airweave, they innovate sleep solutions. We've heard of them. Some of us have. Arena Group, creating unforgettable event spaces. Canon. I mean, I would think Canon would stand up for us, don't you? Canon, cameras. Carlsberg Group. They are brewers. Let me see if there's anyone else on here that we are familiar with. Again, there are so many sponsors that a lot of these companies, I do not know. So those are the main ones. I don't see anything else that would be just a common household name for us. Dottie, what happened to lighting the torch and the parade of teams? I consider that the opening ceremony. There are so many things that they could have done to have a really beautiful opening ceremony that played homage to France and France's history without offending pretty much everyone. Even some of the gay people I know, as I said yesterday, are offended because they think, you know what, this is not attention we need on ourselves at all. And who was it that said it yesterday? Jillian Williams, is that her name? Jillian, the fitness instructor. She said, you know what, this builds walls. It doesn't break down walls, it builds walls. Pam, Eli Lilly sponsored no commercials. And let's see here. There's going to be a lot more that comes out on that. It just frustrates me when people are trying to gaslight us and say that, yes, you saw it with your own eyes, but it didn't really happen that way. The main person, I think her name was Barbara Butch. She even even on her own social media page. This is what she posted, the photo of their Last Supper parody, and underneath it she said the New Gay Testament. And of course that's since been deleted, but of course people screenshot it first. So that's that. We'll have to come back and talk about that if there's any new updates. Other than that, I am done. Jillian Michaels. Thank you, Linda. Jillian Michaels. I could not remember her last name, despite me having many of her videos back in the day. Elon Musk. Have you seen Elon Musk's video about Kamala Harris? He got a lot of backlash from Gavin Newsom over this. And, I think many of us know, and I learned this when Greitens and Eric Greitens, Eric Schmidt were both running for Congress for I believe it was U.S. Senate a couple of years ago. Anything's fair when it comes to a campaign. You can absolutely lie about your opponent when you're campaigning, and there are no rules against it. You cannot be sued. Oh, well, you could be sued, but they said no court would ever uphold it, because in a campaign, it's like love and war. Anything goes in a campaign. You can tell the biggest lies about your opponent and nothing can be done. So Elon Musk, he used AI. This is one of the funniest things I've ever seen. He used AI to create a Harris video. Now, some people say he created the video. Some people say he just shared it. Maybe somebody else created it and sent it to him. Newsom believes he created it. And there's been a lot of hoopla over this. And it is a pretty funny video. When I watched it, I was just like, oh my gosh, did he really do this? Now, if I can find it, is a whole nother story. Hopefully I didn't delete it, because I haven't been doing the best with my electronics today. Darn it, where is it? Let's see. I don't think that's it. I am going to find it because I know it's here. I had it. I watched it. It's here. We're going to go back and look. Well, while I look for it, I'm going to play another video, and then I will see if I can find it.
For far too long, the status quo thinking has been to believe that by putting more police on the street, you're going to have more safety. And that's just wrong.
Does that mean you support proposals like what we've seen in Los Angeles, Mayor Eric Garcetti saying, take some of the money from police?
Sorry about that. I'm going to go back to that.
For far too long, the status quo thinking has been to believe that by putting more police on the street, you're going to have more safety. And that's just wrong.
Does that mean you support proposals like what we've seen in Los Angeles, Mayor Eric Garcetti saying, take some of the money from policing, about $150 million?
I applaud Eric Garcetti for doing what he's done.
It is outdated. It is wrong-headed thinking to think that the only way you're going to get communities to be safe is to put more police officers on the street. We have to reimagine public safety and how we do public safety in our country.
One local radio show asked then-Senator Kamala Harris where she stood on the defund the police movement.
Defund the police. The issue behind it is that we need to reimagine how we are creating safety. And when you have many cities that have 1/3 of their entire city budget focused on policing, we know that is not the smart way and the best way or the right way to achieve safety. This whole movement is about rightly saying we need to take a look at these budgets and figure out whether it reflects the right priorities. For too long, the status quo thinking has been you get more safety by putting more cops on the street. Well, that's wrong.
I did find the video. We are going to play it. The AI video. Hopefully I can get it added in. I don't know why it deleted. I guess Restream is trying to make sure we don't play it. Either way, Harris absolutely will defund the police. She absolutely will defund the police, because as you heard her speak, which is so incredibly important, it goes to show her views on reimagining the community. What do you think reimagining how we police means? And it is an absolute fact that more police officers equals more safety and less crime. And you're right, Pam. How has that worked out for them? It has not worked out for them. Lori, she is scary. Her thoughts are scary. Everything about her is just wrong. No question about it. No question about it. I probably will talk a lot about police as the show continues on, throughout the coming episodes, because I'm such a staunch supporter of our law enforcement. Of course there's bad apples. That's in any profession. In any profession there's bad apples. Any profession. There are people who make mistakes. A good officer can make a mistake. There's no question about it. Less officers means we are in more danger. Look at how things are already for our police forces. I know so many police officers, they're working 12-hour days. They're exhausted. Very few breaks. They're going around picking up the pieces because crime is so crazy, especially, let's say, in a place like St. Louis City. There's no way to proactively police a city like St. Louis or Chicago or New York. It's just impossible with the number of police officers we have. All they can do is show up and pick up the pieces. We don't even have enough officers in the city of St. Louis or enough police dispatchers where there are people talking about, I remember last year, and I talked about this on Cancel This, about a situation where there was a woman who, in the city of St. Louis, somebody was breaking into her home. I think it was 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. She's calling 911. Nobody answers. Calling 911. Nobody answers. And in the meantime, this person's breaking in. So she finally gets somebody on 911. And they told her, well, I'm sorry, but we don't have any officers to send out to you right now. And this poor lady is like, they're breaking into my house right now. What do you think? What will our world or our community look like when we even have less police officers than we do now? Not necessarily. We're going to have police officers, of course, under a Harris regime. They're going to be retiring in droves. So many right now are at retirement age. So I think we know what we have to look forward to. We have to protect law enforcement, not hurt them. I'm going to try again. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm going to try to add this Harris video. So just bear with me for a moment, just for a moment. I don't know if it's going to let me, but I'm going to do my best. Sometimes it won't because I have to exit the studio, and I don't want to do that right now. I don't know what is going on with my system or anything else because it's been perfectly fine. And now all of a sudden things are crazy, but I will find it. I just don't know what it looks like or if that's it or not. Let's see. Nope, that's not it. And I apologize, but it is here and I really want you guys to see it. Otherwise, I wouldn't be going through all of the housekeeping stuff I am right now for you all to see. But I do think it's important. But I may never find it. Darn it. Anyway. And I had it all lined up. It was there. And then it disappeared. Sometimes I think that things like this disappear for a reason. They were there, then they're not there, then they're there, and then they're not there. There it comes. I found it. Sorry about that, guys. As you know, we are a work in progress.
I'm Kamala Harris, and your Democrat candidate for president, because Joe Biden finally exposed the senility of the debate. Thanks, Joe. I was selected because I am the ultimate diversity hire. I'm both a woman and a person of color. So if you criticize anything I say, you're both sexist and racist. I may not know the first thing about running the country, but remember, that's a good thing if you're a deep state puppet. I had 4 years under the tutelage of the ultimate deep state puppet, a wonderful mentor, Joe Biden. Joe taught me rule number 1, carefully hide your total incompetence. I take insignificant things and I discuss them as if they're significant. And I believe that exploring the significance of the insignificant is in itself significant.
Talking about the significance of the passage of time, right? The significance of the passage of time. So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time, and there is such great significance to the passage of time.
Another trick is trying to sound black. I pretend to celebrate Kwanzaa, and in my speeches, I always do my best Barack Obama impression.
So hear me when I say, I know Donald Trump's type.
And okay, look, maybe my work addressing the root causes of the border crisis were catastrophic, but my knowledge of international politics is truly shocking.
The United States shares a very important relationship, which is an alliance with the Republic of North Korea. It is an alliance that is strong and enduring.
And just remember, when voting this November, it is important to see what can be, unburdened by what has been. And by what has been, I mean Joe Biden. Do you think the country went to over the past 4 years? You ain't seen nothing yet.
Isn't that hilarious? Thank you so much for bearing with me while I found that. It was there earlier. I don't know what happened to it. Good morning, Joe. Joe, yes, that is AI. That is absolutely not a real video. And there's been a lot of controversy whether Elon Musk created it or he just shared it. My belief is that he just shared it. I don't think he actually created that video. It is AI, and it is absolutely hilarious. If you want to see it again, I believe it is on my Telegram channel, Tabs on Tap on Telegram. It is hilarious, and it's so true. It's the truth, isn't it? I absolutely love that video. And again, every day I face having my show taken down for sharing such things. And again, thank you for bearing with me while I found that. I was determined to show that to you today. So here's a conversation that Elon Musk had over this video. Gavin Newsom, of course, California governor, he was very offended by that video, and he was very upset that Elon Musk shared it. I guess Gavin Newsom thinks that Elon should be above and beyond sharing an AI video of Harris. So it is AI. It's not real. And I don't think anyone who saw it would think it was real, even though it's the truth. So here, so Gavin Newsom, what Gavin Newsom said, let's see. Gavin Newsom said, manipulating a voice in an ad like this one should be illegal. I'll be signing a bill in a matter of weeks to make sure it is. And Elon Musk, and this was all over X, this was all tweeted back and forth, or X'd back and forth, I don't know what the proper term is these days. And Elon Musk returned and he said, I checked with renowned world authority, Professor Sugon these nuts, and he said the parody was legal in the United States. Probably one of the funniest things I've heard in a really long time. And I can't even imagine how upset Gavin Newsom probably was. I like Elon Musk more and more every single day. I think it's absolutely great that he shared that. I don't think he created it, but he did share it. Now, that's funny, isn't it? That being said, don't you think that that's maybe how the world feels about Kamala Harris? Isn't that how Americans feel? I mean, everything that was in that AI video was true, wasn't it? It was all true. It wasn't her saying it, of course, but it was all true. And whoever made that video, they certainly know the truth. Can Harris beat Trump in a free and fair election? I'm probably going to ask that every single day. Can she beat him? I don't think really anyone thinks she can. I really don't. So according to CNN, only 5% of Democrat voters wanted Harris as a presidential nominee in 2020. 5%. She was at the bottom of the poll. 5%, 2020 election. She only received 5% of Democrat votes when they polled Democrats asking who should be the nominee in 2020. Remember when she was debating, remember Cory Booker? And they were having that big debate. She was the first one voted off the island, right? Off the debate stage. She left. She was the first one out. She does not have what it takes. Does not have it. My gosh, Sherry, you're so right. Fox News damn near called it already for Harris. They have. Trump, as a matter of fact, I think I have Trump's statement here. Trump even made a statement about exactly that he is like, what is going on? Fox News. He says, why this was a X or tweet, again, I don't know what they call it these days, from Donald Trump. Why is Fox News putting on crazy Kamala Harris rallies? Why do they allow the perverts of the failed and disgraced Lincoln Project to advertise on Fox News? Even Mr. Kellyanne Conway A man so badly hurt and humiliated by his wife, and it says in parentheses, she must have done some really nasty things to him because he is crazy, is advertising on Fox News. We have to win without Fox. We have to win without Fox. If you've listened to me in the past on Cancel This, on The Edge, back in the war on COVID, on Real Talk, all the different shows I've been on, and there have been quite a few, I have always said Fox National, they're not one of us. They're not. They have some good hosts. I love Levin. You know, a lot of people like Hannity. I'm not a big fan of Waters. Laura Ingraham. Obviously, they got rid of Tucker. Why? Because he was telling too much truth, and he's doing fantastic now. He's actually the number one podcaster. I think it's on Spotify. I don't trust it. I don't trust Fox National. Todd, I'd rather watch Cuomo than Fox these days. I woke up to Fox National a long time ago. And they are the flip side of the coin. You know, they are also state-run media. They will say so much, and I know you're going to argue with me. I know somebody on here is. They will go to a certain line, and then they stop. They won't go any further because they can't. And I'm not saying those hosts wouldn't want to. Many of them would. Many of those hosts are just like us. But absolutely, they are the flip side of the coin. Remember in 2020, they were calling states before it was even official? I mean, calling states for Biden. Michelle, you've been correct on all things. Not everything, Michelle, but I do my best. And Fox is definitely one of them. Flip side, it is called the illusion of choice. Just like voting is an illusion of choice. They make you feel like your vote counts when really it doesn't. We still have to go out and vote because we have to prove them wrong, but your vote doesn't count. You know, our country is set up to give you the illusion that you feel like you can vote and that you feel like you're choosing the person that best represents you. But in fact, you really have no say whatsoever. And news is much the same way. When you watch Fox National, it's the illusion of choice. You think you're watching conservative programming, and you are to some degree. It's certainly better than CNN or MSNBC or some of these other channels, but it's also a very controlled environment. And don't think that it's not. Don't think that it's not. And yes, Dottie, there was a time when the OGs got fake book to pull the show down. And she says, I'm rocking the house. Well, let's hope so. And yeah, people do that. You know, it's unfortunate we as conservatives don't support each other more because people absolutely will attack us. People I've worked with have attacked me. I try not to attack them, even though I could say a lot about some of my former co-hosts. I try to take the higher road and I choose not to. But either way, the DNC, they're taking measures to make sure Harris gets the nomination. They are very quickly moving towards a virtual vote. They want to secure the nomination for Harris before the DNC convention. So if they do a virtual vote and she gets the nomination, that will absolutely ensure that no one else is able to join the ballot. Now, why are they doing this? I can only speculate. I think it's because RFK is so close. RFK Jr. is so close to being on the ballot. And I really do think that if he's on the ballot, they're going to have a big fight on their hands because you can't tell me that the majority of Democrats are to the far fringe left. I know they're becoming more progressive all the time, but I don't believe that. I think the majority of Democrats are more moderate, just like the majority of Republicans are more moderate these days. I think that RFK would sweep the nomination. Of course, that would be if it was a free and fair nomination, right? But Harris has it in the bag because we all know the DNC is a private organization. They can choose whatever nominee they want. It doesn't matter voting. It doesn't matter about delegates. All of that is for show. It's all for theater. None of it matters. They can do anything they want to do because we all know back in the day, whenever Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders were in the primary together, guess what? Sanders won. Sanders actually won that primary, which terrifies me, and it probably makes me backtrack on my thoughts that the majority of Democrat Party are moderate, but they're actually becoming much more progressive. Sanders won in that primary. We know that because Sanders supporters sued the DNC. And that is why Debbie Swasserman Schwartz had to step down as the DNC chair back in that day, because it was proven that the DNC is a private organization. They said in a court of law that because they are a private company, they're not part of the government, they're not a branch of the government, they're not entitled to follow any type of rules or bylaws, they don't abide by the Constitution or anything else. They said in a court of law, they chose Hillary Clinton. That was the person they chose. It didn't matter who the people voted for. It's not going to matter with Harris either. She will be the nominee at this point. And I'm kind of surprised by that. I don't even feel like I'm saying those words, because I don't really think they want her as the nominee. I really don't. But I think they're stuck with her. And versus RFK Jr., who they definitely don't want. He is far, far too moderate for those folks. And Harris she's going to change. She's going to change a lot of things. We already watched a video about her wanting to defund the police. You know, that is definitely going to happen. She wants to reform. She wants to reform the Supreme Court. There's no question about that. She wants everything to change. And I have a video of her talking about that as well. She's perfectly fine with adding more members to the Supreme Court. We had Biden yesterday also wanting to reform the Supreme Court. You know, he feels that it's been taken over by extremists. He all of a sudden wants term limits, believe it or not. Kind of funny when it's convenient. He wants to make sure that future presidents do not have immunity from prosecution. Gee, kind of makes me think maybe Biden thinks Trump will win. Maybe that's the case. Maybe they know Trump's going to win, but they're going to arrest him, and then it will have to go back to Harris. Or I don't know what'll happen in that case. If we have a sitting president who doesn't have immunity against prosecution, and they somehow come out of the bag with something, well, what happens then? I don't even know. I don't know where they would go from there. I have to look that up. Anyway, we know what's on her agenda. And Democrats for a long time have backed changing the Supreme Court. You know, these people aren't constitutionalists. As a matter of fact, our Constitution will be so chopped up it won't even resemble what it's supposed to be once Harris comes on board.
So I will say that I am interested in having that conversation, and I'm open to this conversation about extending the number of people on the United States Supreme Court, about increasing the number of people in the United States Supreme Court.
Of course she wants to change the Supreme Court. Why? That's pretty obvious, isn't it? That's pretty obvious, because for once, we actually have the Supreme Court making some good decisions, don't we? You know, we finally got them in a place where they need to be. Of course, she wants to go back and change it. The Constitution is just a suggestion to the far left regime that is being run by the deep state in our country. And that's what it is. It's the deep state. It's not your Democrats again in your community. It is the deep state. It is a regime. It is definitely a regime. Just like in third world countries, they use the word regime. Well, that's what this is. It's a regime. No different than what's happening in Venezuela right now. Adrian says, RFK submitted 60,000 signatures in Illinois when only 25,000 was needed. That was before the debate. Just because Illinois is taking their time certifying, I believe the same is for many other states. He is going to be in all 50 states. Illinois always goes blue. I think the only way Trump has a chance in Illinois is if RFK gets enough blue votes away from Harris. The challenge is in Texas, and maybe other states will end up challenging the signatures as well. In the state of Texas, RFK Jr. has far more signatures than he needs, but Texas Democrats, believe it or not, his own folks, Texas Democrats are challenging those signatures, and they're saying that it's not legitimate. And so Texas may hold him up from being able to enter the ballot. And what's going to happen is they're going to certify Harris by virtual vote far before he maybe has an opportunity. Let's hope it works out, but Texas is stalling to make sure he does not get on that ballot before. So Harris still hasn't picked out a VP. And as we saw yesterday, North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper withdrew. And I think that most people think it's going to be Josh Shapiro. I think that's who the VP is going to be. I don't know anything about Josh Shapiro. I'm going to have to look him up. Is he as far left as Harris is? Is he going to play a vital role? I don't think that it matters. We know Harris is a puppet. She's not going to be making any decisions, just like Biden hasn't made any decisions. And the far, far, far left regime is going to control our country. And again, what are they going to do to our Constitution? For those of us who are like me, you know, constitutional conservatives, and they want to change the Constitution. You know, it's just, again, the Constitution to them, it's just a suggestion. They have no love of the Constitution. It means nothing to them. It's just a piece of paper. Most of them think it needs to be completely rewritten and everything needs to change. And they will definitely do that. They will splice it and dice it, and it will no longer resemble anything like it is. And sooner or later, there's going to be so few people who can read cursive. They won't be able to read it anyway, right? Isn't that the way things are going? So sooner or later, Harris will come up with a VP. Who knows when? Who knows when? But in the meantime, I think Democrats, they really think that she's a weak candidate, because I saw 2 different videos, or more. I chose 2 to show you guys today. People being paid to vote for Harris. In fact, if you're quick and you write down the name of this website, you can be paid $150 to go onto your social media pages and support Harris. And I think that's so funny. You know, I wonder how many people will go in there and take the $150 and not actually support her. I don't know if that's something that they're really watching, if they really know who's doing what. I don't know, but we're definitely going to get to the bottom of it. But it's kind of funny to me that this is even happening. So we're going to talk about these people who are getting paid, how you can make $150, how Democrats are being approached. These are people being approached at people in the Democrat Party saying, you know what? I'm already a Democrat, but I was asked to cast my vote for Harris. I was asked to support Harris. So I'm going to play a couple quick videos for you here really quick, and you'll get the gist of it very quickly.
Y'all, do y'all see this? They are literally paying people to support Kamala Harris. If you pretend like you like her, you can make $150 in cash. She is so unlikable. They are paying people to like her.
I was just offered $400 to make an anti-Donald Trump propaganda post related to the January 6th investigation that is completely not true. I should start out this video by saying I'm not a Donald Trump supporter, so that should give a little bit of context to where I'm coming from. I'm an attorney. I post legal news and analysis on related topics. Okay, here we go with the story. So first thing first, I get an email from somebody with the Good Info Foundation. We'll talk about them a little more in a minute. I'm going to refer to this person as Jane. Jane sent me a message letting me know she represented the Good Info Foundation and that she was willing to offer a paid collaboration to discuss some topics related to January 6th. I said, sure, why not? I'll learn some more. Jane says the Good Info Foundation will give me $400 to make a post on my page and then share it to Instagram. So you see that blue link? All right, here we're going to follow it. These are the specific requirements in order to obtain that $400 of how I should refer to the January 6th Capitol raid. Number 1, I must call this a criminal conspiracy. Number 2, I must say Trump Republicans were responsible. Number 3, I must frame it as an attack on my country, an attack on America or Americans, a criminal conspiracy, and a committed crime. I must attribute the matter to MAGA Republicans. I must make clear that this was ongoing and unresolved, and most importantly, that I must channel all of this unto the manipulation of voter agencies so that I could turn their anger around this event into defiance that would make people more likely to vote in midterms. And the thing that struck me the most was this part, where I was told to talk about the aspects of the Trump campaign's plan, and I was supposed to say that the Trump campaign paid literally millions of dollars to make January 6th happen. So I figured, maybe I missed something. So I said, hey, Jane, what is the basis for the claim that the Trump campaign itself paid millions of dollars to make the January 6th siege of the Capitol happen? Jane doesn't answer the question. Hi, Preston, if you don't want to state that in the video, it's fine. You don't have to use all the bullet points provided. So I kept going. Sure, I'm just wondering if there's support for that claim. Jane doesn't answer again. Let me know if you are interested and the rate works for you. Thanks so much. I'm not interested, and the rate doesn't work for me. This is the Good Info Foundation. They boast on their homepage that good information is the lifeblood of a democracy.
Isn't that unbelievable? Does that surprise you at all? Does it shock you at all? It doesn't surprise me. We all know what happened on January 6th. Dottie says lots of mommy's basement voters would jump on that offer. No question about it. No question about it. Can you believe that? $400 to go out and pay. They're paying for propaganda. That's what it is. And think about this. How many campaigns do they have that we don't even know about? This guy came forward. Other people have come forward. What if they didn't? We wouldn't even know about this. I absolutely believe in its legitimacy. And Adrian says, I need to share that clip. You can find it on my Telegram page because that is where I post all of my videos. And because I can't share them anywhere else. So I post them on Telegram because I will get kicked off faster than you can imagine on most other platforms. I share a lot on X as well, another place that is very tolerant of conservative views. Don't you feel like Democrats think she's a weak candidate? Why would they be paying people? Why would they be paying people $150 to post on their social media that they support Harris? If they weren't fearful of Donald Trump, why would they be paying people $400 to go out and create all of these lies about January 6th? And they are lies. Now, don't you think this should be against the law? How are they allowed to do this? How? I can understand maybe paying people to support a candidate. I think it's wrong, but I know they pay people to vote, so it wouldn't surprise me at all. But how can they pay people to go out and lie about Donald Trump and the rest of us? I wasn't there on January 6th, but I know plenty of people who were. How is this legal? I don't get it. We'll never know. I really don't get it. We'll never know. All we can do is do our best to fight, just to support Donald Trump. Whether you like Donald Trump or not, it is your job to support him, because if you don't, we might as well kiss our Constitution goodbye, as well as every right you have. Your freedoms will be gone in the blink of an eye. We are going to be the next Venezuela. We're so close to being there already. Dottie Dixon says, campaign contributions, Act Blue. All you got to do is look up Act Blue. You'll see everything you want to know there. Adrian, they want their good puppet. They don't want a president who actually runs the country. No question about it. You know, these tweets or X's or whatever you call them these days from Donald Trump, that's actually him talking. Anything you see these clowns posting, that's a team of speechwriters. They have an entire team of people to write these speeches. Pam, I'm not surprised. They are using some of our laundry money from Ukraine. No question. No laundered money. Yes, no question. No question about it. And then how much do you trust our intelligence agencies? I know that back when Hillary Clinton, I'm sure you guys all remember, if I weren't limited to 10 videos per day on my streaming service, I would show you the video of Hillary Clinton sitting there saying, well, all of our 37 intelligence agencies, they all said that Donald Trump is guilty for colluding with Russia. Of course, we found out the truth later. Most of us already knew the truth. And when she made that statement, how many of us said, what? These were agencies that we thought we trusted, that we thought we could believe in. Everything I thought went straight out the door. Then all of a sudden I'm like, well, I know that's not true. So I no longer trust these 37 intelligence agencies. Well, now these intelligence agencies are telling us, and this actually may be true, but they're telling us that Iran is meddling in the elections. Iran is against Trump. So these intelligence agencies are saying that Iran is putting out propaganda against Donald Trump. Well, why would that be? You know, I can believe that actually to be true, because Iran, they know they will not be messing around with Donald Trump in office. I remember when Obama gave them that big pallet of cash. Do you remember that? He gave them a big pallet of cash. He literally flew a pallet of cash to Iran. What do you think they did with it? Bolstered their security, bolstered their nuclear weapons plan, all that good stuff that we wanted them to do, right? No. What does Trump do when somebody goes against him? Remember the mother of all bombs? I think you do. that went right down in Afghanistan on the caves, by the way, that the Bushes built for Osama bin Laden. That's a story for another day. I can believe that Iran is against Trump. They don't want to deal with him. He'll stop them in their tracks when it comes to building nuclear weapons, won't he? He's not going to play games with Iran. There's no way. All of the stuff they're doing, attacking troops in different countries and all of their proxy wars, he'll put a stop to all of that. He will put a giant MOAB right up there behind. So I think they are worried. So the same intelligence agencies also said Russia is for Trump because you know why? They're going to start that all over again, aren't they? They're going to start that all over again. So this is when I got to say yes, no, maybe. Now, I think it's possible that Putin would prefer Donald Trump to be our president, even though Russia says that they have, they don't. I don't have the statement ready today, but I know that Russia made a statement that basically said the same thing we all say, that the president of the United States is just the face of the country. It's all theater. And that was Russia's official statement. It's all theater. Our elections don't matter to them because it's not a real president. We all know there's a deep state running the country. They literally said the word deep state from Russia. I wouldn't be surprised, though, if Putin doesn't want Trump to win. I don't think that Trump is colluding with Russia. I don't think he colluded with Russia to begin with. We know it was the Bidens actually colluding with Russia and Hillary Clinton with Roscom and all of those. We could all go back to all of that was going on. I'm very well versed in everything that happened at that time. But Russia, Putin, Trump wants to withdraw from NATO. Trump wants to withdraw from the UN. I wouldn't be surprised, quite honestly. You guys are going to laugh in my face and tell me I'm wrong. I wouldn't be surprised if Trump didn't want to join BRICS, quite honestly. I wouldn't be surprised at all. I really do believe that the reason why they fought so hard against Trump in 2020 is because he absolutely planned to withdraw from NATO. He planned to withdraw from the UN. He was very open about those statements and very clearly said that why are we putting all of this money in and all of these other countries aren't paying a darn penny? We're footing the bill for everybody else's security. And what are they doing for us? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. I seriously would not doubt that Trump wanted to join BRICS because eventually BRICS will be the world superpower. And they kind of already are. And I am quite certain that Trump is a smart enough man to know this. I'm sure of it. So, do we believe our intelligence agencies? I don't know. But I hope they're not about to spin that Trump and Russia are colluding once again because we know it's all a lie. We got to worry about voting. Did you know that Judicial Watch, you may have already seen this, Judicial Watch, they did an investigation, as they do a lot of good investigations. Back in the presidential primary, which took place in June of 2024 for the Democrats, in the District of Columbia, Washington, D.C., 113 non-citizens voted for Joe Biden. So I think 113 is actually a fairly modest number. It's probably a lot more than that, but that's just one district, 113. This is happening all across the country, but I thought that was an interesting tidbit from Judicial Watch, and I have no doubt that it's true. Andrew Bailey, our very own Attorney General. I remember when Andrew Bailey, I hated to lose Eric Schmidt as the Attorney General in Missouri. I thought he did some really wonderful things for Missouri. I think he could have done more, but I think there was a lot of things he really did that were really great. Andrew Bailey, a lot of you don't like him. And maybe I'm missing something. I like Andrew Bailey. So Andrew Bailey released this information yesterday on X. Everybody uses X these days, don't they? Now that Twitter is taken over. So let's see. Breaking news. I am filing suit against Joe Biden and Kamala Harris for refusing to turn over documents about the flying of illegal immigrants into Missouri. We have reason to believe they are deliberately flying illegal aliens from the border into our cities. Not on my watch, says Bailey. What do you think? I absolutely believe, I'm not going to say which listener it is, and I don't know if she's still listening, but we have a listener, we have a follower who works right next to the airport. and she sees in the dark of night the airplanes that come in with the illegals. We know it's happening. We have an eyewitness that sees it happening at the airport at St. Louis Lambert Airport. I've heard they come into Spirit Airport too. Whether they do or not, I don't have any witnesses that say they do, but I know they're coming into St. Louis Lambert Airport. And I hope that Andrew Bailey, Attorney General for Missouri, gets to the bottom of that because it is so incredibly important. I've got a few other things. I'm going to kind of rush through some of these things just because I really want to get to cholesterol and cancer because I think that's very interesting. Laura Loomer. Most of you are familiar with Laura Loomer. I actually find this maybe to be one of the wackiest things I've heard, maybe ever. And I'm going to find her exact message. This is what Laura Loomer tweeted yesterday or text or whatever. This will blow your mind. She states, I hear that a Black trans doctor will be performing an abortion on a white woman live on the stage at the DNC convention in Chicago this August. Is that not the strangest thing you've ever heard? I mean, it sounds so strange that I find that so hard to believe to be true. Are Democrats so depraved that they would want to watch a live abortion being performed on stage? Can this be true? I mean, I've never heard anything like this before. My mind is completely blown. I don't even know what to think about this. I really don't. I hope it's not true. If it is, that's a new low for Democrats, isn't it? A new low. I can't imagine that the majority of Democrats would even want that. Not only would they want to see it, but they wouldn't want that. Would they really want that to happen? I don't know. I hope it's not true. If it is, then man, they have crossed the line that I never even thought the progressives could cross. But Monica, she's usually right. But yeah, that is insane. Yes, and Amy, it is gross. And Adrian says, if it's true, that's disgusting. Yes, it is. I mean, could you imagine having a live abortion on the stage? I don't know, my mind is blown by that. We're going to keep an eye on that because that is some of the craziest things I've ever heard ever in my entire life. Ever. Have you guys been watching the earthquakes? There's a lot of big things going on. And then I'm going to get to cholesterol and cancer because it's such an important topic. We've had a lot of earthquakes yesterday. 5.1 magnitude earthquake, 13 miles from Barstow, California. California, man, they've got it rough right now. Newsom has his hands full. Maybe it's divine intervention. We've been talking about that a lot lately. Surprisingly enough, we had a very small earthquake in O'Fallon, Illinois. Who would have thought that? One in Tennessee yesterday. Blytheville, Arkansas yesterday. Small. They're all very small earthquakes, but I'm always watching and hoping that the big one doesn't strike the New Madrid fault line because I really do worry. And I'm going to have an insurance expert on here one day that I'm going to interview because if you don't already have it, you need to take out some homeowners insurance for earthquakes. It's not going to be part of your normal policy. You have to do it as a separate addendum. I did it. It cost me $20 more. That's it, $20. Not a big deal. Do that because if something happens and there is an earthquake and it damages your home, your foundation, any part of your home, your insurance is not going to cover it. Make sure you have earthquake coverage. In our region, we need it. Linda says 1 in Northern Illinois, 3.4. Yeah, I mean, I keep an update. I'm going to look. I keep an update on all the earthquakes. And I mean, there are so many. Of course, Texas has been having one after the other. California always having a lot of earthquakes. I don't see anything too crazy on here. A lot of them in Northern California right now. But that's something to keep an eye on. Western Texas has been just getting a ton of earthquakes. And they claim that's from fracking. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, but that's what they're saying. Keep an eye on the earthquakes. You can actually go to USGS and set up an alert so that anytime there's an earthquake, they will email you or text you that information. It's a good way to know what's going on around you. California, look at the wildfires in California. California's going down. I mean, I have a lot of friends in California. I don't want to see these crazy things happen. Oh, oh, Adrian said insurance will probably start, they'll probably quit selling earthquake insurance. They probably will quit selling it because people need to buy it. And of course, they don't want to pay out those claims. So, California, gosh, there was a wildfire. I'm sure you guys heard of it. Fires all over the place in California, all across the country, really. It started in Chico, California. So far, 348,370 acres have burned. Now, that was as of last night. It is the fastest growing fire in the history of California. Think about this: 60 football fields per minute. 60 football fields per minute are burning in the state of California, which is just unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. So I want to get to cholesterol and cancer. This blew my mind. Never in a million years did I think that this was possible. Never. I never thought that there was a connection between cholesterol and cancer. I want you to watch this little clip, and then we're going to talk about what this man is saying.
Cholesterol is one of the most important defense mechanisms we have in the body. In 1968, the perfect cholesterol level was 222. Today, the perfect cholesterol is 222. It has not moved. As you get down to about 120, you can pretty well be assured that 100% of that population has cancer growing someplace. It may be small, it may be large, but it is growing. But as far as being the best protector against heart disease, against stroke, against cancer, you're not going to get over cancer unless you get cholesterol levels above 200. 180 is kind of the borderline area, the break even, if you would. But if we have a patient who stays around 120, 130, 140, I know they are not going to recover very rapidly.
Does that blow your mind as much as it did mine? Adrian says the brain is made up of cholesterol. A good portion of our body actually contains cholesterol. I did some research. I actually saw this video first. I knew nothing about the connection between cholesterol and cancer until I saw that clip. And I thought, what is this about? I've talked before about ivermectin in cancer, and I've talked about parasites in cancer. And those are things we're going to talk a lot more about in coming episodes. But cholesterol, and I was reading, and this is in PubMed. There are many published articles, as a matter of fact, dating back to the late 1800s, in which doctors were studying the relationship between cancer and cholesterol. Good morning, Stacy. And one thing that I read, which really shocked me, is if you have colorectal cancer, you're going to have very low cholesterol, because cancer feeds on cholesterol. Therefore, if you have cancer in your body, it's going to feed on the cholesterol, and your cholesterol numbers will plummet. And so what doctors are looking for, if you visit your doctor, you don't feel well, they test your cholesterol. If your cholesterol numbers are very low, like he said, 120, 140, anything below 180, they are going to assume you have cancer, because cancer will feast on your cholesterol and it will make the numbers drop significantly, absolutely significantly. Who would have ever thought that was the case? And earlier, Todd was talking about statins and some of the, nobody wants to take more medication, of course, but I was reading that statins, and I got to be careful with the wording that I use, but this is according to PubMed and some articles that I saw that were written, statins can kill cancer. That's what they say. I didn't say it. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a medical professional at all, but you can look up at PubMed. I'm going to find that article. I have it saved, and I'm going to post that to my Telegram, because anywhere else they're probably going to delete it, even though it's legitimate. But they're claiming that if you take a statin, it can actually kill cancer cells. Cancer cells grow in cholesterol. Not all cancers, but a lot of cancers grow within the cells of cholesterol, and they feed on cholesterol. And cholesterol is a funny thing, just like this person said. I don't even know who that guy is, but whoever he is, I'm assuming some type of medical professional, maybe not. The perfect level of cholesterol is 222. If your cholesterol is higher than 222, then you're opening yourself up to cancer. You're opening yourself up for cancer to grow and proliferate within those cholesterol cells, according to PubMed, not me. And Monica says, what are statins? Statins is something that people take. There's avorstatin. There's all different types of statins. And when you go to your doctor's office, they test your cholesterol, which is very common part of blood work. And your cholesterol triglycerides are too high, they will prescribe you a statin to lower your cholesterol. And I never knew the relationship between all of this. I really had no idea. So and so Dottie says, so why are they now discouraging statins? Well, I think we know why, because I'm not even going to get into the pharmaceutical companies and the money they make off of cancer diagnosis and cancer treatments. But if you have your blood work checked and your cholesterol is above, let's say 230, and they prescribe you a statin, you probably don't want to take it because you don't want your cholesterol to drop below that 222, or like he said, 180. And most likely it won't. It's hard to get your cholesterol to drop that far. And Lori said, I had no clue about this. I have heard cancer feeds from sugar. Yes, but sugar and cholesterol, all of this pieces together. We don't have time to get into all that, and I'm not a doctor. I would like to find a medical professional to talk about this because I think it's very fascinating. When I first saw this video, I thought, that guy's crazy. What does that have to do with anything? Kathy says, well then, since more than half the country is on a cholesterol medication, why do so many of them have cancers? Do they or don't they? There's no way to say, well, half of the country is on a cholesterol medication, so those people have cancer. We don't know. Like this guy said, Dr. Naputi, well, Dr. Naputi, I certainly have a lot of respect for him, but he's not a medical doctor. He's not a physician. And I don't know if he knows the relationship between cancer and cholesterol. I have no idea. I can certainly ask him. I'd love to have him on regardless, but I would like to talk to an actual physician, a medical doctor, about cholesterol and cancer and the relationship there. It's very interesting to me. So keep that in mind, that you want to keep your cholesterol level above 180, like around 222, he said, is the perfect cholesterol level. If it's any higher than that, according to PubMed, you're breeding cancer. You are opening yourself up to becoming I don't know how to say it, but you're opening yourself up to disease. And not only that, but if your cholesterol is too high, you're talking about strokes, heart attacks, a whole host of other issues as well. 222 is the magic number. And Monica says, I would love to see Dr. Naputi on. He is. I absolutely love Dr. Naputi. He's one of my favorite people. I would love to have him on. I think of him a lot in the mornings because when I was on Amped in the AM at Real Talk, I used to literally drink his Amped coffee every morning till I started having heart palpitations. That's kind of the end of that. But now I drink a protein drink every single morning instead, and some water. But anyway, keep an eye on your cholesterol. If you don't know what your cholesterol is, call your doctor and go have your cholesterol checked. Look at those numbers. Again, 222, the magic number. If your cholesterol is higher than 222, far higher, you need to take a statin to lower it. You don't want to breed cancer in your cholesterol cells. You don't want to do that. If you see a sudden drop in your cholesterol levels, if you're in that perfect range of 220 and so on, and all of a sudden it drops all the way down and your cholesterol is, like he said, below 180, he guarantees that anyone with cholesterol that low probably has cancer. And so that's something to look into. You know what, Kathy? All I can say, I'm not distinguishing between HDL and LDL cholesterol because I'm not a doctor. I just read PubMed, and I was lucky enough that I could understand enough about PubMed to even the medical language to even talk about it today. And I'm just giving you guys a little hint, a little clue to look into this further. Do your own research. Find out what your own cholesterol levels are. And once you know where you're at, talk to someone about it. I'm going to do my best to find an expert to come on and talk about cholesterol again. And then we'll find out, Kathy, is it HDL, LDL? I'm almost 99.9% positive it's HDL and not LDL, because LDL typically is not in those types of numbers. I'm almost positive it's HDL. Adrian says Zach Bush is good to listen to. He gave up his medical license because he's convinced all medications only cause harm and everything can be treated naturally. I agree. Most medications are based on natural remedies, including statins, but tweaked to make them not natural in order to patent. All synthetics and semi synthetics are the same. I'm really big into homeopathic remedies. I think that in many of our own backyards, in a park near your house, someone you know has so many natural remedies growing in the fauna, around their property. I know living in the country like I do now, I live in a rural area and I go out and I explore, my property, and I use an app and I try to look up every single thing I can find, even though a weed. I look it up, see what kind of weed is this. And it's kind of amazing to me that things that I've seen my entire life that I always thought were weeds, things that we do our best if we want a pretty green lawn to get rid of. Guess what? They're beneficial for you. You could probably mostly survive foraging in your own yard if you have a big enough space, a park, somewhere else to go. We have a big storm developing outside. There was a big wind gush. So hopefully I won't lose my power in a couple minutes. And I don't know if any of you guys had a storm last night, but I know I did here. Got a couple big limbs down. That's something to watch the next couple of days. Pam says, I just checked my chart. I'm under 222. Yippee. Well, being under 222 is fine, but you don't want to be under 180, according to this doctor. And but yes, if you're in that range, that's great. I think he said 180. I don't know if he gave us an upper limit, but he said the perfect is 222. Something to look into, something to look into. I'm just kind of giving you a starting point to do your own research. We're going to be talking a lot more about that in coming shows, and I'm going to have a lot more guests. And I know we only have a minute left. Monica says, I have to go to a meeting. You have a great rest of your day too. And again, I'm Tabitha Hassell. This is Tabs on Tap. Today is our 9th episode. We're getting there. And I just want to remind everyone that I will not have a show tomorrow. Again, I own a small security company. I have to work tomorrow. Being though this is only the 9th episode, I don't really have enough episodes to have a best of or to replay or anything along those lines. If for any reason you want to learn some new news, you can go on to YouTube, X, or Facebook and check out some of the old shows if you've got nothing else to do. Outside of that, though, I will be back on Thursday at the usual time, 7 to 9 a.m. I'm working to get phone calls coming in. I'm lining up guests. We have a lot going on in future episodes. And hopefully on Friday, we're going to be joined by Joe Fressa. We're going to have our first segment of the dating game on Fridays. It's going to be a 3-hour show, hopefully every Friday from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. And we're going to have a little bit more fun on Fridays, a few more added segments in than what we would normally have. And outside of that, I thank you all for joining me today on Tabs on Tap. And I really look forward to talking to all of you on Thursday. I hope you all have a really great day.